Mexico doesn't depend on the United States anymore.
Mexican victory.
New millionaire partners. Mexico has risen with an unbreakable determination, challenging a destiny that seemed sealed by the economic dependence on its northern neighbor. For over 70 years, the trade relationship between Mexico and the United States had been a marriage of convenience, where both countries benefited, but where control was always in the hands of Washington. However, everything changed when US President Donald Trump decided to impose additional tariffs on Mexican products. That decision, which sought to subdue and control, ignited a spark that unleashed an unprecedented trade revolution. Instead of bowing to the pressure, Mexico made a bold and radical decision to reduce its economic dependence on the United States. It was not an impulsive reaction, but a calculated and courageous strategy. The Mexican government understood that the only way to protect its economy was to break free from the chains that for decades had tied it to the whims of Washington. Thus, it began to weave a network of trade alliances with countries in Europe and Asia, seeking to diversify its markets and reduce its vulnerability to US policies. The trade agreements signed with the European Union, China, Japan, and South Korea not only opened new doors, but also marked the beginning of a profound economic transformation. With impeccable strategic vision, Mexico began to redirect its exports, reducing its dependence on the United States and strengthening its ties with the rest of the world. This would mean a drastic reduction in trade volume between the two countries, hitting the US economy hard. The impact was devastating. The demand for US products began to fall alarmingly. The auto industry, which for decades had depended on Mexico as one of its largest markets, suffered a crushing blow. The spare parts that once came from factories in Detroit and Ohio were replaced by components imported from Germany and Japan. At the same time, US agricultural products such as grain, corn, soybeans, and meat began to be replaced by products from China and South America. The US trade hegemony in Mexico collapsed in a matter of months. In the halls of the White House, panic gripped the Trump administration. What seemed like a clever maneuver to subdue Mexico turned into a strategic nightmare. The United States began to experience millions in losses. It is estimated that US companies could face billions of dollars in losses if this trend continues. The Trump administration felt betrayed, abandoned by a partner they thought they had under control. Fury turned into desperation, and Washington responded with a series of economic retaliation measures, raising tariffs and applying cross-border trade restrictions. It had become a global player, backed by new trade alliances and a strengthened economy. Business investments from China, Japan, and Europe began to flow into Mexico at an accelerated pace, consolidating its economic independence. With each new agreement, Mexico built a shield against Washington's reprisals. Trump's threats, which would have previously destabilized the Mexican market, no longer had the same impact. The agricultural industry, which annually exported billions of dollars in products to Mexico, faced an unprecedented crisis. The automotive sector, one of the pillars of the US economy, began to falter. Factories in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana cut production and in some cases closed assembly lines. Thousands of workers were laid off and the specter of a recession began to loom. But Mexico had already anticipated every move and had prepared to resist. Its strategy was clear: diversify its markets and strengthen its trade relations with Europe and Asia. Investments from China and Japan not only boosted its economy, but also neutralized possible retaliation from Washington. The results were evident. US exports to Mexico fell drastically, especially in the agricultural and automotive sectors. It is estimated that the trade volume between the two countries could be reduced by 50% in the next 5 years if this trend continues. Mexico's economic dependence on the United States was fading, and with it, Washington's control over trade in Latin America. In Mexico City, people were celebrating an economic rebirth. Factories were increasing their production, exports were growing at an accelerated pace, and foreign investments were creating thousands of jobs. Mexico had become a nerve center of global trade, breaking the chains of economic dependence. In contrast, in Washington, the Trump administration faced a bitter reality. The economic pressure strategy had failed, and instead of subduing Mexico, had triggered its commercial emancipation. The world watched in amazement. Mexico's decision not only changed its trade balance, but also reshaped the map of world trade. The influence of the United States in Latin America weakened considerably. Mexico had not only achieved its economic independence, but had also opened the door for other countries in the region to reconsider their dependence on the United States. The legacy of this decision will be remembered as a pivotal moment in world economic history. Mexico no longer depends on the United States. It has become an independent and bold trade leader with a global vision and an expanding economy. What began as a trade war turned into an economic revolution, and as the dust settles, one thing is certain: the world has changed, and Mexico has been the architect of that change. Mexico, an emerging economic power. Yes, you heard that right. Seriously, it's happening. And you know what else? Mexico could join a super important group, the BRICS group. They are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Pure world power, huh? Imagine Mexico rubbing shoulders with these giants. Joining this group would be huge for Mexico. It would give it more strength around the world, and it could work with other countries that have the same problems and opportunities as us. Many leaders and economists are excited about this idea. They think this alliance can help us grow even more. And not only that, Mexico could have a voice and vote in important world decisions, influence policies that benefit us all. Joining such a diverse group is not easy. It takes a lot of diplomacy and knowing how to manage different interests, but the potential is huge. Mexico is not only looking to improve its economy, but also to be a leader in the developing world, an example to follow. Joining the BRICS could be the beginning of something great, a new era of cooperation and development for Mexico. The whole world is watching what Mexico is going to do. Mexico's partnership with BRICS marks a significant shift in global economic dynamics. This alliance opens new avenues for trade, investment, and cooperation, positioning Mexico as a key player on the international stage. Imagine this: a new dawn where Mexico collaborates with BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This partnership brings diverse opportunities for growth and development. As Mexico strengthens its ties with these emerging economies, it paves the way for a more balanced and multipolar world order. But what does this mean for Mexico? Well, it means more influence, more power, and more opportunities. This chapter explores the potential benefits and challenges of this strategic partnership, highlighting Mexico's role in shaping the future of global trade and economic policies. The world watches closely as Mexico steps into this new era, ready to embrace the challenges and seize the opportunities that lie ahead. This is not just a partnership, it's a revolution, a transformation that could redefine Mexico's place in the world. Join us as we delve deeper into this groundbreaking alliance and uncover the true potential it holds for Mexico and the global economy.